Next we have scissors. Scissors are for a couple different things. If you don't have access to grommets or you ran out, you can create a grommet out of a paper towel, which again I'll explain more in detail about that later. And also they are for cutting paper towels. Now paper towels generally, as a rule of thumb, come in one size. This is a standard size paper towel. I tend to cut my paper towels in half to conserve on the amount of paper towels I'm using, because half a paper towel works just fine for me. Next we have is ointment. I recommend to everybody, for every single tattoo you do, is A&D. A lot of different artists have, different variations on types of ointment they use. I particularly use this because it has always worked good for me. I've never had any problems with it, and there's no point in fixing something that's not broke, and this has always worked great for me. I also use this for the healing process, which again I will cover in a different segment. But as far as the setup goes, you use the A&D ointment to lubricate the skin as you're tattooing. Also, initially, once you put the stencil on or do any kind of artwork by pen drawing on the skin, you apply a very thin layer of A&D on the skin over top of the ink that is on there, and that will create a nice thin little barrier, and it will kind of help you out a little bit and keep the stencil from rubbing off. Also, it creates a layer for your hand to kind of slide on. Just makes the whole operation of your hand sliding around the skin smoother, and as the needles are penetrating the skin, it lubricates the tip of the needle so it can slide in and out easier instead of creating friction on the skin. Again, A&D works the best for me. This comes in two different types. There's regular standard A&D, which literally is vitamins A&D and nothing else. And the other type has zinc in it. A lot of times it's used for sunblock, and you definitely don't want to use one with zinc in it. The minimal amount of materials you have in any kind of ointment or ink, the better when you're dealing with open wounds, fresh skins, new tattoos. Again, this is the clip cord. This delivers power from the power supply to the tattoo machine. And we have our foot switch. And basically it works similar to a sewing machine. All this is a glorified off and on switch that you control with your foot, because your hands are obviously busy enough. You have one hand stretching, the other one working your machine, and your foot controls whether the machine is running or not running. And that is a very key point, because when at any time you have to stop tattooing, whether it's to dip, to put your machine down, to wipe the skin off, to take a break, anything you need to do, all you have to do is lift your foot up. You don't have to take your gloves off to flip any switches. Foot switch is very important. And that is generally it. Depending on the type of tattoo you're going to do, there's going to be various different types of setups. Whether it is different size ink caps, different types of ink, different power supplies with multiple jacks, different power settings, more or less ointment, different types of needles, tubes, machines. But generally speaking, this is what you need for a very basic, minimal, straightforward setup for a tattoo. And next I will be moving on to an actual demonstration of how to set all this stuff up.